Jared Polinfronos, Photo.com here at Allen's Camera because they got in the brand new 50 to 150 Sigma 2.8 APO EXDS. Why don't they have more letters on it? APO EXDCOS. So this lens for both Nikon and Canon, this is the Canon version, is meant only for your cropped sensor camera. So what I'm going to do is unbox it, sniff it, tell you what I think about it first and foremost, and then we're going to throw it on a Canon 7D, take some sample images with it, and compare it next to the 70 to 200 2.8 OS. So let's start. This lens is $10.99. The 70 to 200 is $13.99 and will work on both cameras. Now, I did mount this 50 to 150 onto a full-frame 5D Mark II just to see if it would work. There's major amounts of vignetting. So before we unbox this, let's just think about it. Who is a cropped sensor lens for versus who is a full-frame lens for? A lot of people say, well, I'm thinking of going full-frame one day. You know what? Buy for the camera that you have right now. It's good to think about the future, and it's a good consideration to think about good glass, better glass, but in this case, a 50 to 150 2.8 is a very good range on a crop sensor camera. For example, you multiply the Nikon by 1.5 and you're looking at like a 75 to 225, and on the Canon you're looking at something like an 80-something to 240 millimeter zoom, whereas the 70 to 200 gives you a little bit more reach. On the Nikon you get basically a 100 to 300. I like having a longer range, but the difference in price is $300 and you have to decide what is right for you. So let's just unbox it and figure it out, because you know, I hear a lot of people say all the time, I am going to one day go full frame. If that's 4 years down the road, go with these lenses. Go with a crop sensor lens. There is nothing wrong with going with a crop sensor lens, especially when you're getting one of those 2.8s. So just keep that in mind. If you're looking for a little bit more bang for your buck in terms of zoom range, a 70 to 200 2.8 on a crop sensor camera is going to give you more bang for your buck on the long range than on the wider end. Obviously 50 is wider than 70, so that's something to take into consideration. Now here we go. Here we go. If I could get this thing out of here. We've got the case. Sigma always gives you one of these cases. You've got the lens with that nice smell. You've got the nice lens hood, which we're going to leave in here. It's shocking. It's such a shocking lens hood on my face because I stabbed myself with it. Let's see what it smells like. It kind of smells like a 737 Series 700 jet. South by Southwest. No, Southwest Airlines version. So here we got it. We have it right here. You have your 50 all the way to 150 range. Feels good in the hands, not terribly too heavy. I could see shooting all day with this because I've always shot with heavy lenses. We have a 77 millimeter filter. That's going to be the same as your 70 to 200 OS. So this is an OS lens. On the side, you have your AF switch, you have your manual switch, one then the other. You've got your OS on, 1 and 2, or totally off. You've got the collar that actually pops off right here. I would probably leave this off at all times because I don't use monopods when I'm shooting with these lenses because they're not terribly too heavy. So let's just put it side by side with the OS version of the 70 to 200, which is for full frame. So here we have it. They are exactly the same size in my mind. They weigh, this one's slightly heavier, 70 to 200, just slightly, ever so slight. If I was to do the scales of justice right here myself, they feel about the same. And I think the wind tunnel test would corroborate that. Look at this. I just got some Fronos spit on there, but they look about the same. They feel about the same. They look about the same. So I figured that the 50 to 150 would be slightly smaller. I was a little wrong. It's exactly the same here as the 70 to 200 OS. But there's a $300 difference. So you have to decide which one is better for you. If you want to spend the extra $300 because you want a little bit more range, you want to shoot things at more of a distance, you're shooting sports, you need to get all the way across the field, and 300 millimeters is going to give you more reach the equivalent than a 240 millimeter on your, well, it would be a 225 on the Nikon. So you just have to decide for yourself which one is best for you. So after we come back, I'm going to throw it here on a 7D from Canon. We're going to go shoot some sample images just to let you download some raw files to decide for yourself, is this lens for you? And you can do all the testy McTestersons that you would like to do yourself. Don't forget, if you would like to pick up an iShootRaw shirt, you can do so in the Fro store, fronosphoto.com/store, and you can pick up all of the different designs. That's up to you. So when we come back, we are going to take a look at these lenses side by side, look at the images, and let you decide what you want to do or see from these lenses on the computer. You can download the file. So we will be right back. So here we go, we're back. I just shot with the 70-200 OS, as well as the 50-150 OS from Sigma. I used the Canon 7D, which actually feels very nice, takes nice pictures from what I've seen. You can see some of the pictures popping up on the screen right now, and if you'd like to download the raw files, I will have a select few, as many as I can get into the zip folder, for you guys to download and pixel peep and do whatever you want to do with those files, because to me, it's all about taking the pictures. How does the lens feel in your hand? Of course, the image quality it means something, but I expect that the 50-150 is going to look pretty good in those files, or on those files, when you take a look on the computer. So just feeling wise, it feels very nice in the hands. I personally took off this collar. I don't like shooting with the collar on because it just doesn't feel right in the hands. This feels good. Something I noticed is you have your zoom range all the way out at the end. But one thing I noticed is that occasionally I'm accidentally touching the focus ring. I would prefer to have the zoom ring followed by the focus ring, but I guess it makes sense where it's at. I wish that I could disengage the focus ring so that I don't accidentally move it, because just here I'm slightly moving it if I'm not careful. But this lens felt very nice in the hands. It focused quick. The OS, when it kicks in, you can see that it's stabilizing what you're trying to shoot, so that's a good thing. And it felt really good. It's a good range. It's like that 70-200 equivalent range that you would get if you were shooting full frame. Of course, it's a little more depending on the 1.5 or the 1.6 crop factor, but it's a good range. The very first lens that I ever bought to shoot sports and portraits was an 80-200 range, so this is one of those lenses that I would call a must-have if you're just starting out or in an intermediate place. I always think that a 70-200 range, or in this case a 50-150, is a great place to, it's a great lens to have, not just for sports, but for portraits, because when you shoot out at 150 at 2.8 or at 3.2, your backgrounds are going to blow out and be very, very soft like butter. So they feel good, they look good, it's a good range. So right around $1,000, the question's going to be if you could get a 70-200 non-OS Sigma, which they've discontinued, or the 50-150 OS. The difference in price there, they were selling the version 2 70-200s non-OS for $799, and this is $1099. I would probably go with the 50-150 at this point. It's a little newer. It's designed for a crop sensor camera. It's got the OS, and it just feels good in the hands. It's a nice feeling lens. It smells good. It takes nice images. They're probably nice and sharp. We're going to see them popping up on the screen, like I said, and you can give a little analyzation to it. So that is really it from Allen's Camera. If you're interested in testing this lens out yourself or borrowing it, you can check out borrowlenses.com, because they have these lenses in stock there and you can rent them. And if you would like to then go ahead and purchase it, you can do that from allenscamera.com. So we're all working together. Borrow Lenses, Allen's Camera, Fronos Photo. That's me. And there you have it from Allen's Camera. Jared Polin, fronosphoto.com. See ya. If you would like to borrow lenses from borrowlenses.com, please go over to fronosphoto.com and click here on this Borrow Lenses banner.